Thanks for joining us on I Met Jesus. This is where we are exploring the lives of some people in Scripture who encounter Jesus Christ and they walk away changed one way or another. You can't be neutral when you encounter Christ. We hope that you learn a lot from the podcast, and we hope that it challenges you and what your encounter with Christ is like as well.
Welcome back to the Crossroads Podcast. We're continuing with some more kind of our I Met Jesus with each one of us edition. And today, Westifer, it's me.
Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
It just makes
People
you...
called me that in high school, just so you know.
Did they really? Okay, it makes
Really?
you so fancy.
Why?
I don't know.
Because they're clever. All right, we're with Wes and Jason.
I'm back.
Yeah, but
About
you weren't on vacation.
I was on vacation, but not
were
when we recorded.
working.
Yes.
See, I lumped it all in together.
It's all good.
I almost went to the Sphere to go see Wizard of Oz because of you, but our schedule was just really tight over the weekend.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it
was
looked
great.
super cool. I'm glad that you had fun.
I'm just going to... Is Jason playing a game? Like, how long can he go without talking? Because it's the only reason he's not talking.
I have a question for you guys. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
Yeah,
Oh, there's no chance I'm fighting
I actually thought about this quite a bit. I have a clarifying question because I thought about this as well.
Okay.
In terms of how many like third graders you think you could take. Are the ducks being funneled to me one
There's
at
only
a
one
time?
duck. It's a horse-sized
It's one duck.
Yeah. Oh, or I'm
Or
sorry,
100
duck-sized horses.
duck-sized
Are
horses.
the horses being funneled to me one at a time?
Yeah, it's an assault.
Okay.
No, so they're all at the same time.
Yes, they're all
Not like
com-
a gauntlet match
Then I'm,
situation.
then
One at a time. It's...
I'm taking the horse-sized duck then.
The horse-sized
Yeah,
duck.
because if you said I got the duck-sized horses one at a time, I feel like I could take them down relatively
Right,
easily.
but all together, you think that overwhelm you.
You're going to be in trouble. Yeah.
I'm taking the 100 duck-sized horses.
And why is that, Wes?
Because I'm deathly afraid of ducks. So no chance
Is that
I'm
right?
fighting a horse-sized duck.
Why?
No way.
Okay.
No way. That is what nightmares are made of.
Did you have an incident with a duck?
Nope, I have
when you were-
no reason that I'm afraid of ducks.
Follow-up related question. What is your favorite smell? Sorry, I meant to say follow-up unrelated question.
what the answers to this is.
Like, do you really like the smell of duck?
Like, is there any, but is there any, like, do you have a favorite smell? Or is there any smell?
Yes,
like,
I do, and you can probably tell by looking at me. I really like the smell of fresh cooked bacon. Like,
Ooh.
like that's the best way to wake up. Like, when you're
Yeah.
a kid.
All right, Michael Scott.
Are you afraid of ducks if they're food? Like, if you'd have gone on a date with your now wife and she'd have ordered the duck, would
She
you
is my
like
now wife.
flipped it over?
She also, like, in the past was my wife also.
Yeah, but not forever. I'm saying like when you guys were dating.
When you were trying to impress her.
Yeah.
They don't fly, and they don't have feathers when you eat them.
Okay.
Duck's not that good, though.
Do you get a panic attack when you go to Raising Cane's?
No. And I don't go to Raising Cane's because Raising Cane's is gross.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm with him on this.
They're not going to be a sponsor.
Raising Cane's is good at one thing.
Sauce.
Sauce. When everybody dips everything in the sauce, the reality is you don't like the food, you like the sauce.
I could see that.
Okay.
Follow
There
up.
we go. It's on the record.
Follow-up question.
Why are we following?
If you go into a room that has like a low ceiling, do you ever get concerned if somebody is like, "Hey, Wes, duck"? Is my
And for the Crossroads podcast,
man.
But like, go back
That's
to the
how I
smells
got to
question for a
learn
minute.
Christ.
I got the smell bacon.
No, but I'm fascinated by this. Is there a smell that other people kind of go like, "Oh, that's gross," but you find good? Like, for example, I think the smell of gasoline is horrible, but other people love the smell of gasoline.
So I won't talk about myself. I'll talk about Caitlin.
Oh goodness.
If we drive down the road and you smell a skunk, she'll go, skunk.
What
Loves it.
are you saying? So, like, her dream would be to run into Pepe Le Pew and it just like,
Loves the smell. Skunk. Works out good.
No, I don't know if sharing that will.
your then wife, Caitlin, is what we'll say in future podcasts.
I did not miss this. Turns out.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
you did.
did.
Yes, you
I
did.
didn't. I'm
You're
lies.
such a liar. You ran into our last.
It's called I Met
podcast.
Jesus Kevin, and we've talked about my wife and my fears.
Guess what? Because I'm really good at what I do. I know how to deflect.
What do you do?
Do you guys have any? Hold on, we'll get to that in a minute. Do you guys have any other random questions or thoughts we need to address before we analyze Kevin?
You know what smell I really like that I don't know if everyone can sense it? It's the smell like right before it snows. I've definitely walked into my house and I've been like, it smells like it's about to snow. Now other people might be like, I looked at my app and I saw it was about to snow. But me,
Okay, well, Crystal's looking at me this way, so I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Does it smell different when it's going to snow?
It does.
it does.
There's a crispness and a cleanness in the air.
Crispness is not a smell. Just to be clear, it's a feeling.
That's a good point he makes.
There's something about the amalgamation of weather-related vents
that word
that
correctly.
does have there is a clean smell. What did you say?
I'm not sure he's using that word correctly. Jaden will look it up. Amalgamation.
So, but I am with him. There is a very particular smell.
Well, seeing as in the last 33 years it snowed 4 times where I live, so
Okay, well, I've lived other places.
Oh, I've also lived in this place, so I'm with you, man. But you can tell.
you've smelled the snow.
Yeah.
This is the dumbest conversation we've ever had.
Oh, we can easily.
I can get behind
beat
the
that.
smell of rain. Like, I know what rain smells like.
You don't smell rain, Wes. You feel it.
No. Crispness is not a smell.
Rain
You can't
is
go
not
to
a
Bath
smell.
and Body Works.
Once you go to Bath and
you
Body Works,
in a-
everything's
yeah.
a smell, though.
Oh, I bet you
Flannel,
could.
Crisp smell.
Winter air
Yeah.
candle.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a thing. I'll get you one.
they
Where
still
did
in
we get to
business?
this? Where we have candles that are named smells that don't smell and crayons that are colors that are not colors. Like, I just don't understand.
Oh, that's a fun fact about my life. My littlest son Noah says the color of my head is peach because I don't have any hair, and he's like, "Mommy is brown. It's just brown hair," and he's like, "The color of my head is peach," and I was like, "That feels right."
It does. It is very good.
Fresh winter air is a Bath and Body Works candle.
Oh, so they smell it too.
Yeah, they're $25.99.
Just saying, my birthday's
the
this
big gift?
weekend. I'm just saying.
Get you one for the big give.
Fresh winter air. Bath and Body Works gets us.
Now, guys, I don't know if you know how this is going to work. I'm not going to ask myself questions. You will have
It'd be way more entertaining if you ask yourself questions.
We're gonna leave for a
probably.
bit. You can
I
ask
probably
and
could
answer
figure
questions.
that out. I probably could.
Wes has some questions for you.
Okay, great.
Because I honestly I've been really looking forward to this because
Yeah, same.
like we've
What was your name?
Wes and I've spent 10 years of our life together.
Right.
We've known you for a year or so.
Right.
And so yeah, there's all kinds of stuff about you we don't know.
I'm pretty much an open book. My only fear is perhaps my story does not have the dizzying highs and lows of yours, Wes. So
Every story's different, man. Every seat has a story.
that's right.
That's a thing we say around here.
I got a story.
Okay.
All right.
Wes, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, just tell us about where you grew up, childhood,
Yeah, so
family of origin.
I
might
actually
say.
I actually grew up in the Metroplex, so I've lived here pretty much my entire life.
What part of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area did you grow up upon?
The Garland area.
That's right. G-Town.
Yeah, pretty much bounced.
Wait, which
between-
school? Which
I went to North Garland.
South Garland.
Oh, fight.
Not rivals. Never were.
Oh, dang it.
Yes, we were.
No.
What are you even saying?
Just like how the...
Great response. This is how the Cowboys still think they're a rival to the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing.
All right. Well, then South Garland was a rival to the Police. All right. Is that what you want me to go with?
Tell me about your family.
All right. So my mom and dad got a divorce when I was 5. So I do not remember them being together, like I've seen pictures and everything, but I do not remember them being together whatsoever. And so
Did you have a relationship with both of them?
no.
No, okay.
So with my mom still to this day, me and my mom we're really close by my standards. Like, I don't know. If you look at the closeness of people in my life, she's super high on the list now.
Okay.
Would some people argue that sometimes I just like to be by myself? Yes, that is a very fair argument that I accept, which I realize is ironic given what I do for a living. But I am very close with my mom.
We'll get there, folks.
In case you've ever wondered and can't operate Google. So
Basically just said Google me is what just happened.
Yep. Sorry, that is a jerk. That's a jerk thing to say. But yeah, so my dad was an alcoholic, and he was around, but not really around that much. You know what? If we're going to do this story, we might as well do it right. I'm going to skip ahead because just specifically with my dad, because I think he's going to disappear from this story pretty quickly.
Gotcha.
He just wasn't really around, except like we would go over to his house, and he lived with his mom because he's a very charismatic individual, but also made a lot of really poor choices and was not good with authority. And that's actually, to this day, one of the reasons I don't drink, never have, don't ever anticipate it, is because I definitely have like an addictive personality within me. And, you know, it wasn't hard to figure out some of the similarities between he and I when he would be described to me. And alcohol pretty much ruined his life. You know, like he ended up losing his job, his marriage fell apart, and he was back living with his mom and not really seeing his kids.
Wow.
And so it made sense to not go down that route, because I could absolutely see how potentially I could do the same thing.
Sure.
And so we would see him on weekends at his mom's house. And then when my mom would know the answer to this, like 11 or 12, he took care of us for the summer because my mom was working full time and everything. But I found out later that she had to pay him to be our babysitter, essentially, which is, you know, that's really depressing to think about.
Right.
I'm sure it was really depressing for her to think about it as well. It's like, hey, I need you to take care of your kids. And essentially his response was something to the effect of, what does the job pay?
Right.
And, you know, that's really disappointing. And so I must have been 12 because I ended up getting arrested for shoplifting baseball cards. And, you know, my mom was really upset about it, and she, I think, at least partially blamed it on my dad. And so I can count on one hand the times I saw him after that summer and until he got sick. He got sick when he was older, and that's a whole different deal. But I can count on one hand, like, the number of times I saw him. I still remember he didn't come to my high school graduation. He didn't come to the party. I ended up seeing him like maybe a week before I left for college. And he just like showed up. We had no idea he was coming over to the house or anything like that. And he just showed up, and he talked about, like, you know, maybe we could spend some time together and stuff. And I remember at the time, like, I can still feel that feeling, like being really upset of like, well, we had the entire summer, you know, like,
Right.
I'm about to leave
Yeah.
for college, but still, and this was before like everyone in the world had a cell phone and everything like that. And so, you know, I felt like I kind of tried to put out some effort, and it was not reciprocated. And so after that, I don't think I saw him again for like 15, 17 years, something like that. So you know, after I was 12, and by the time he died, I, again, did not really see him that much. And so he was not a part of my life particularly.
2 questions. One of them is probably not necessary. The other one is more serious. When you say you were shoplifting baseball cards, are we talking like you got a pack of Topps baseball cards, or you cleaned out a shelf and tried to bolt out the store? I don't know why this is what's in my head, but I was just curious.
And it was not tried. I was successful. Unfortunately, I used to be very good at shoplifting. And I know you're going to be like, except for you got caught. We'll get to that in a second. So me and one of my friends, we took an entire box of baseball cards.
Wow.
And thought we were geniuses because we bought one of those giant things of apple juice, asked for the brown paper bag to put it in. And then we went back, walked around the store, got a cart, put the baseball cards in there, and then angled the bag of the apple juice where it looked like you couldn't see the cards. And we just walked out the door. And in our infinite wisdom, as just idiotic middle schoolers, we decided that since we were successful, we should go back and do it again the same day. And so, I mean, the next day. I'm sorry, the next day.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, so we went back and did it, and we got caught because we're morons. And I remember the police officer, to this day, I was like, touche. He asked me where I went to middle school, and I went to Jackson Middle School, and he goes, figures. And I really wanted to say something back to him, and then my brain was like, well, he's kind of got a point. You are sitting here for shoplifting. So I was like, well played.
So, better question. What do you think the impact? I mean, there's a lot of people for different reasons. They've got one or more parent that was limited in involvement, or it just wasn't. I mean, the kind of the nuclear household,
right,
dissolved. How do you think that impacted you going forward, and like, even to this day? Like, do you? I mean, it's the only life you've ever known, so
sure.
You have nothing to compare it to. What do you think it had some significant impact?
Yeah, it had two life-changing impacts on me. The one is not drinking.
Sure.
That is one of them.
Sure.
But the other one is, and I want to make sure I say this right because I don't want to be like, oh, I'm the best. The other way is I just, like, what I wanted to do in life is to be a good dad. And, like, that's one of the reasons for people watching, and I'm sure we'll probably get into this. I have a 20-year-old and a 3-year-old. And
spread them out a little bit.
Yes. Doesn't everybody do it like that? Yeah, your kids are 4, 22, and 40. Right? Like, that's how everybody does. But yeah, that's one of the reasons is me and my wife, we wanted to have a kid because I was like, that's my favorite thing is being a dad.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I wasn't done. Like I'm still talk with my older son last night for like 2 hours, but he doesn't need, as much. He's in college and, well, he needs money. But outside of that, you know how it goes. He doesn't need as much. And I really kind of like had this sense of sadness where I was like, I don't feel like I'm done being a dad. Like I want to, and so we were blessed with Noah after some difficulties. And so that's like one of my favorite things is being a dad. And I feel like I'm super close to both of my boys in vastly different stages of their life. And so I think that was a huge impact because, I remember when my dad died, I had an opportunity to talk about it to a lot of people that very same night. And I processed like a lot of emotions in that moment. And I was like, we were there. Like we lived in the same, I know DFW is big, but we lived in the same place.
Right.
And he never wanted to see me or see my sister or anything like that. And it just it has really struck a chord to me is I don't understand why you would not want to be around for your kids. Sure. And so that is probably one of the biggest things that has impacted my life on like a human to human level.
So rewind, go back to childhood, you and mom.
Yep.
And your sister's older or younger?
She's 3 years younger than I.
Okay. So, tell us a little more about that growing up with mom.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to like kind of the topic that we're going to talk about that we are talking about is we grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
And so like I got my confirmation and everything like that. And I would go to, Sunday school or CCD as we called it. And it would be like Monday afternoons and everything like that. And we would go to church every Sunday. And, I think we had a delightful middle class upbringing. And I never found myself like particularly wanting, well, aside from like, hey, can I get all of the video games in the world? You know, other than that, I feel like we were very provided
Video game
for.
of choice.
The original gold cartridge Zelda, I just think is one of the coolest games ever.
It's okay.
Growing up in Catholic Church, when you heard "The Lord be with you,"
And also with you.
but you know they've changed that.
They have?
Yes,
Well, we'll get to why.
yeah, they've changed it to "and with your spirit."
What?
Yeah. Breaking news here from the Catholic Church. It's also
Man.
it's also in a John Mulaney stand-up album, so many people have heard this. But yeah, they've literally changed that greeting.
That's that might be the most stunning revelation that comes out of this for me. Because I used to think about it since I love Star Wars, and it was like, may the force be with you. And I would always also be like, and also with you. So yeah,
It's from a movie, yes.
I had I think I had a nice childhood, and I'm still really close with my mom and sister. And we were the family that, like every Sunday we would go to church, and then Monday again we would have our CCD where we'd also go to church, and it's essentially just Sunday school and whatnot. But one of the things I thought a lot about this, knowing we were going to talk about this, is, we didn't have like conversations out of that, particularly about faith or anything in that vein. So like at the time I was like, oh yeah, we're doing everything perfect. Like not only do we go to church, we also go to this like supplementary thing the next day. And so
We're doing extra credit.
yeah, exactly. I was like, man, we do the most church. And so, but we never
Resonate with that.
we never really, talked about it too much outside of that. And to this day, my mom is very much still like that. Is, she will go to church occasionally, but she's more of the, I have my own personal relationship with God, which I know can be complex and fraught.
Sure, yeah.
And everything like that. But yeah, that's kind of a brief outline of the childhood. So I'm open to whatever questions you have.
Okay, Wes.
Yeah, I was just going to keep us moving. So I just would love to know, like, what is, like, we know you're passionate about sports because you stole baseball cards. It's like, what is, like, high school Kevin, college, like, what does that world start to look like for you?
Yeah, so it's really funny. I've told my wife numerous times, I've been the way I am for a really long time. Because, when people are like, oh, I'm so different than high school and college, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much about right. Like, I feel like I kind of formed my personality and ideals at a pretty young age. High school Kevin definitely got in a lot of trouble for shooting off his mouth inappropriately. And high school Kevin, and to a certain extent college Kevin, had a huge issue with authority. So you take that too. What a terrible combination. I like to talk a lot of trash and I didn't always appreciate people telling me what to do. Well, as you can see, I ran into quite the numerous difficulties in high school. It was never like anything too bad, but I would definitely make appearances in the principal's office for some offhanded, what I thought was super clever remark to the teacher that was not appreciated. And as I got older, like my mom described it perfectly. She when Brandon was little, that's the 20-year-old, Noah's the 3-year-old. She goes, you just wait until your son is just like you. And I remember when he was 5, we were watching like Planet Earth or one of those nature documentaries, and the whales are frolicking around and they're talking to each other.
I don't think whales frolic.
I mean, that's what I envision when they're like splashing up out there playing. Well, not with humans, but with the other whales. And so Brandon goes, Daddy, what do you think the whales are saying to each other? And I like tried to give him this breakdown, and he looked at me and he goes, I'm sorry, do you speak whale? And I was like, stupid jerk. But instead what I did was I picked up the phone and I called my mom, and I was like, hey, Mom, I got great news. That day you were waiting for? Well, we just tasted the first part of it. And so yes, I have in addition to being older and hopefully wiser, I have a totally different appreciation for maybe not being the best behaved high schooler in the world. Like, I stayed out of all major trouble. So all the trouble I got into was not necessarily for my actions. It was for my mouth.
I got you. So during all that time, we have Kevin, who grew up and did the most church.
Yes.
Extra credit
In my
church.
mind.
How does that translate into adolescent, young adult Kevin? Where was that where was your faith life in that moment?
Yeah, and I think I spent a good chunk in the middle kind of following and emulating my mom's relationship with God in terms of like, well, I didn't make it to church this Sunday because I got a final tomorrow, but God will understand, and I still believe, and, so I'm good. Like, I definitely was one of the people who, I don't know, I guess decided how my relationship with God would look and get a thumbs up. Like, who decided who got the thumbs up? I did. How? Clearly that was not well thought out. But I was definitely one of the people who, especially in college, I would say, is I was too busy, like, socializing and doing fun things. And this is not a reflection against you, Jason, you, Wes, or anybody else. But I think sometimes maybe we can agree church is not always the most fun thing
I'd agree.
in the world. And so, not always. And so when given the prospect...
Almost never the most fun place. In
So
the
you
world.
get it. So like when given the prospect of, do you want to go to a party, stay out late and have fun and maybe sleep in versus, well, you need to set your alarm and make sure you dress nice to go to church. I definitely fell in the Jesus is my guy. I'm going to go out. You know what, what I'm saying? And
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't, my belief never ever left. So I have never had like a crisis of faith or anything like that. But I have definitely, I can look back and say I had a crisis on like living up to my end of the faith, if that is the right way to put it, or if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I think and this is true for a lot of people, like in the church world, there's two extremes. There's like the never have fun church, and then sometimes there's the we only have fun and frolic church.
Whales.
So I think the reality is, like, first of all, the design of the church is not always to necessarily be the most fun thing. Sometimes it's going to confront things, challenge things, and that's kind of the whole point, is to call us to mission. But also at the same time, I think something it does get missed is that I also think that as the church, as Christians, we have a better reason to celebrate both in this life and the next than anybody else. And I think sometimes the church doesn't live up to that. I'm grateful to be at a church that we don't mind having a little bit of fun, and I think that's pretty cool. So I don't know. I know you had some questions, Wes. I don't want to jump the gun. I was just going to go like, so you get
following.
Just for the record, Wes, I want you to know, I don't mind sitting on and discussing anything. I know when we were talking with you, I got the sense a couple of times you're like, we can be done with this conversation. I promise you can ask me whatever the heck you want.
I think you've done a great job.
So
I'm curious about like what you went to college for. I mean, I would love to know the story of like your first son.
Yes.
That whole, like, this seems like a pretty big deal in your life.
Yes. So
You take us there.
yes.
that's kind of where we're at in the story, right?
Yeah, I feel like
absolutely.
I don't know how old you are, but if you have a 20-year-old son, I feel like we're pretty close to this. The timeline is starting to line up.
Yeah. So I had a spectacular non-finish of college in terms of that's the way I choose to go with it.
I thought it was beautifully put.
Might be.
Eventually, I got my college degree. So I went to A&M, and I went there.
Big 'em.
Yeah, that's
Really?
right. Big win over the weekend, which I was watching on my phone off in press row during the fights in Las Vegas.
What a
You
life.
didn't catch that press row.
What a life.
Getting closer.
Okay, it's coming.
Now Google it.
Yeah.
And hopefully you fit in the demographic that I need to. So I went to A&M for 3 years, and it was a combination of things. My major was in political science, and I was doing journalism as well. Well, A&M shut down their journalism school while I was there, but they did say everybody can finish their degree. And you're like, heck yeah, I'm going to get my degree from the place who has decided that it is no longer necessary. Now, in the meantime, they reopened their journalism program, so maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But I also had dreams of being a lawyer, and that's why I went down the political science route, because outside of just going like straight pre-law, that was probably the most popular.
It puts your eloquent speaking skills in effect.
So I think you'll get a kick out of this then. I will tell you a story which still to this day I think is very accurate. When I was in high school, I did mock trial because
Me too.
Me too.
pretty much as cool
That's why
as
we're
it got.
all on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Couldn't find anybody else.
Our
to
new
debate.
podcast coming out in a few months is called Mock Trial.
That's right.
I'm gonna lose, guys. I'll just tell you.
So I was also in student council, and the one thing I lost is one of our dance themes was going to be like a night under the stars, and I feverishly objected because I was like, that is every dance in the history of the world. And somebody else on student council had submitted like Arabian Nights, and they wanted to be like a kind of a different theme, and they were talking about like we could have areas with sand and everything like that. And I was like, yes, I vote for that because it's different. I was like, I have questions about the logistics of that, but I vote for that, and got shouted down. But I was good in mock trial, and we got to the point where we were able to do our cases in front of real judges, sitting judges and everything like that. And I remember one of our cases, I still remember that we lost, not because I'm bitter about that, but I got pulled to the side by one of the judges, and he said, do you really want to do this? And I was like, yeah. And he goes like, do you really want to pursue the law as your career? And I said, 100% I do. And he goes, I think you can do it if you work really hard and continue to study and everything like that. And he goes, my one piece of advice to you would be, maybe don't become a defense attorney, because the way you talk does not always come across as the most sympathetic. And he goes, so I really think that maybe that would not be for you. And I think about that all the time. And I think he was definitely right about that. I've been the worst attorney. I've been like, I mean, maybe he killed one person, but like, come on. But yeah, so
You'd be on one of Crystal's podcasts.
yeah. So I think about that all the time. But yes, that was the direction that I wanted to go with my life. And again, whether it's the journalism school closing down, whether it's making poor choices about scheduling an entire semester of 8 a.m. classes, for whatever reason, so I ended up leaving A&M, and I was going to come back home and finish school at UTA. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to go back to A&M.
Mavericks.
That's right. I was really sad not being at A&M, and in the meantime, I picked up a job at Blockbuster Video, if you want to know how dated this is. And I ended up working
Did you ever go to a Blockbuster Video?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Every week,
used to be a huge thing.
Friday nights.
See?
Blockbuster Video on Broadway. Just South Garland.
But yeah, Broadway and what? That's like
Yeah.
off near where I live now.
Yeah, Broadway and I think Castle Glen is right there.
Okay. All right. Well, so I ended up not going back to school. I worked at Blockbuster for, man, you guys do not know this story. So I ended up working at Blockbuster for 2 years, and what was just going to be a summer job, I moved up the ranks because, I like management and organization, and I love movies. So this felt like it was built for me. And at the time, I was like, this could be my career.
Right.
And so I was 22, and I was managing my own Blockbuster. So I moved up through the ranks, and I was managing my very own Blockbuster. It was in Dallas.
Now dead company. Everybody.
That's right. See, so in your face, Blockbuster. And so I thought this was going to be my career. Like, I thought this is what I was going to do with my life. And I got fired.
Wow. Plot twist. Did you say something?
Why do you get fired is the next question.
Look,
And you said, I'll talk about anything.
it's a good point. This was one thing I thought about when I was walking through. I was like, whoa, maybe you shouldn't have shot your mouth off again. Not the first time it got me in trouble. But so here's what happened. I can look back at this now and be like, that was a bad decision. 21, 22-year-old Kevin thought he was invincible and nothing bad could happen to him. So I developed a little bit of a stigma at the Blockbuster of getting into incidents with shoplifters. And so
much shoplifting in this episode.
but this time I was fighting on the right side of shoplifting. All right.
After mock trial, you're on the right side of the law.
That's right. I really learned a lot.
Please
All right.
tell us what happened.
I'm going to talk to the camera real quick. Hey, everybody watching and listening. In the next 3 minutes, I'm going to tell you a story that might change your opinion of me. I hope it doesn't. That was a long time ago. I thought I was doing the right thing. Poor choices were made along the way. Now, one day at the Blockbuster off of Forest and Odelia,
No idea what's happening right now.
which is the store I ran, we had a massive issue with theft. And I had only been there probably 7 months, but the Blockbuster there had been open for 3 years and had never made a profit once because we had like such a massive issue with theft. So one day I had suggested a couple months ago we start selling DVDs, which had been frowned upon because of all the theft. Somebody went in there. I was the only person working at that moment. They took some DVDs and ran out the door.
You followed them.
I should. Oh, it's so much worse than that. I should have just stood there, talked to my district manager, whatever. No.
Take the L.
Yes. That is not what happened. I jumped up on the counter, jumped over the counter, ran after the car. And so the person's getting in their car and they are like, it's before the magical days where you could push a button and just start your car. And so they're like fumbling with their keys. They shut their door, get in their car. And I kind of like, I didn't like punch their window, but I kind of like hit their car door. And at that point, you'll need video for this. I looked at them and they kind of did the like flinch at me. Like, what are you going to do about it? And at that point, all reason went out the window, ironically, and I took a step back and I kicked in that person's window. I attempted to grab that person out of the car, and then they started to drive away, and I was like, this is how I'm going to die, hanging out a car window. And so I did let go, and then one of my favorite things...
Wait, you're not still holding onto the car?
No, I let go because, again, this is going to end terribly. And then we get to the moment that is one of my favorite moments in the history of my life. I swear to you, I'm telling you,
moment in the history of my life.
Never, ever forget this. I walk back in the store. There's an old man in there, and he goes, "Did you get him?" And I go, "No, but I kicked in his window." And he goes, "That's just as good." And he's just like answered that like nothing, man. And of course, again, I was 21 or 22 and I thought I was the most awesome human being in the world. And then the crashing reality of my decision hit me over the next month or so. I had to call somebody in to clean up the glass in the parking lot. It was this whole thing. And so a couple months later, like nothing had ever happened. And it was right around Easter because I told everybody in my family that story at our Easter lunch. Because again, I thought it was the coolest story in the world. And then reality was going to slap me back down in a couple of months. One day, my district manager or regional manager comes in along with somebody I've never seen in my life. And I was like, "Oh, who is this?" "Oh, it's so-and-so for corporate." And she was like, "Can we go to the back?" And I kind of joked. I go, "Oh, am I in trouble?" And she stops and she goes, "I don't know. Did you do something that should have you in trouble or something like that?" And all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, no." And then I was like running through things in my head. At no point did I think about this incident. And so the gentleman who stole had filed a lawsuit against Blockbuster because he said I got glass in his eye. And once again, I thought that was the biggest outrage in the history of the world. The person who I had never met had this file folder, pulled out a sheet of paper and slammed it on the table and was like, "Is that your signature?" And it was like my code of conduct for Blockbuster that I had signed 2 years ago. and one of them says, "Do not chase or engage in shoplifters." I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. And they had highlighted my name where I'd signed, and I pretty much knew I was done at that point. And I just asked what to do, and they're like, "You need to sign this document that says you violated company policy, and if you do, you will no longer be part of the lawsuit." And I said, "Do I get to keep my job?" And they said, "No, you are fired." They probably said it nicer than that. And so, yeah, so that was it. So there's a story of how I got fired.
I'm fascinated by this story. Young Jason probably would have operated somewhat similarly.
Stay tuned, folks.
So let's move along.
You haven't got me to your kid yet.
Yeah, we're in this. When we
Right.
get to that part.
All right, so
Post Blockbuster.
yes, post Blockbuster, worked at another spot. By the way, you can tell from every job interview if you have a shot, because half the people were like, "Wow, really? Did you catch them?" And the other half were like, "Huh." And then maybe had one more question, and you were done. And so I met Brandon's mom, who is not my wife, and we dated for 4.5 years. Along the way, we went back to A&M.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's where I wanted to be. And it took a long path to get there, but I was back. I was going to get my degree at A&M, and everything was good. And then the first year we were there, I got her pregnant. I almost said she got pregnant, but that feels like that shirks all responsibility. I made a decision. We made a decision.
Sure.
And she got pregnant. And so then we just walk through the logistics of, we're not going to be able to like raise a baby and have a baby still in College Station. We have no like support system there. We talked about both of us still going to school, or at least me going to school, but we were like, we're not going to be able to do this. And so we were in a spot where the year wasn't over yet, but it was like late enough in the year where we finished out the year and then just came back home, because then at least, I could still go to school, and her parents were there. My mom was there, and we could figure it out. And so I ended up graduating from UTD, and
Go Comets.
that's, man, good for you.
I got you, man.
I was about to ask what their mascot was.
Yes, and their mascot is named T-Mock the Comet, because that's Comet backwards. I swear I didn't make that up. So
I knew.
We know you know.
So we got engaged.
We know.
We got engaged after she had the baby, and so in my mind I was like, man, I've done all these things in the wrong order and everything. But then I kind of told myself when I was going to graduate college, all right, I'll be 25, married with a baby. That's right. People don't need to know the order in which it all happened. And then we were 3 months away from getting married, and just something wasn't feeling right. And I decided to snoop, which, again, not right. Don't do that. Just talk to your partner. I did not do that. I snooped, and I found out information that I did not want to find out, but it was vitally important that perhaps she was less invested in this than I had hoped. And so, so about 3 months before we were supposed to get married, that was it.
So then, how much longer after that did you meet your now wife?
A long, long time. Let's see. About 12 years. Yeah,
Okay.
about 12 years. And
So through that, if you gave me a 30,000 foot view of from that moment to the moment you meet your spouse,
Yes.
yes.
yeah, what all? Can I give me the 30,000 foot view?
Yeah. So I had several long-term relationships, but it was never like, this is definitely my person. And I could reflect on that once I started dating Jess, because I felt so different so quickly.
Sure.
And so I guess that was the issue. Is I was also kind of presented with like, you're going to have to make some sacrifices, and you're going to need to make some changes. And stubbornly, I was like, or I could not, and just break it off.
Yeah.
And
So in that time, where is like your faith life. So we know what it was like in college.
Yeah.
You obviously have a child, which is like radically changes your life. Heartbreaking, I'm sure.
Right.
When that relationship ends, then you have this 12-year gap. Where is like faith life for Kevin in this?
Yeah, and during that, I mean, your initial faith life was really anchored to. I'd go to church a couple of times a week.
Right.
What were you still just kind of in that category you described earlier of like, I mean, I always believed, but I really wasn't engaged in it.
Yeah, and I think that's probably still fair because I followed the same pattern. And the way I thought I was going to change it, I realized I still wasn't doing it right. It took a long time for me to do faith the way I wanted for the reasons I wanted, instead of like eventually what happened is we went to Lake Point. We went to Lake Point in Rockwall. And the whole reason that we ended up there is I was trying to get Brandon in the church path, and they had a really great youth program.
Sure.
And so that was one of the reasons that we went there for the longest time, and he really liked it. He really engaged in it. But again, I don't want to say bare minimum because I don't think that's right, but I stopped short and was very much doing the casual version of faith, where like, again, I believed. I believe in all of it, but I wasn't putting in any extracurricular work. Like, I dropped him off at little church, big church. We dropped him off. I would drop him off there, and then I would go to big church, and then we would both talk about what we learned, like on the 15 to 20 minute drive home.
Sure.
And then I'll see you again next Sunday. And that was still kind of the thing. And so I didn't realize until way later that I was going to Lake Point, and there's a lot of people that go to Lake Point. It's just not for me. Their style is not for me. And so, but I stayed there because I know Brandon really liked it. And what I didn't know at the time is Brandon's mom just kind of, I guess, adopts a lot of personality traits of the person she's with. And so I learned after the fact that she is very anti-religion. Like, I swear, I mean, we were together for 4.5 years. I never saw any inkling of that. She went to church with me and everything.
Yeah.
We got Brandon baptized when he was a baby, which is very much Catholic part of it.
Sure.
And so I never saw any flashes of that. And then when we were apart, and she was with somebody else who I guess is who's not into religion whatsoever. And so she started pushing back really hard against religion. And one of my biggest regrets as a parent is I don't think I fought early enough to combat that. Instead, I was just kind of like, because he was with me most of the time still.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, all the times he's with me, we'll do that. But I didn't really do that, like we had Sundays.
Right.
But like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I wouldn't really instill that. And that's still a big regret. We have significantly more like biblical or faith-based conversations now, but I'm still sad because I wonder like what the trajectory of his life is going to look like, because like maybe I didn't do enough, I guess is what I would say.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that. I mean, we're not perfect, and so,
but that is my number one still ongoing regret as a parent.
So you later meet Jess. I mean, the Jess that I know, I mean, she's passionate about her faith.
She is.
I don't know if that was true when y'all met.
It was very much.
Okay. So you guys get together. How does that begin to shape things for you guys?
Yeah. And so luckily, I think the biggest difference in our relationship is I had already gotten to the place by myself that I needed to be. Like, I very vividly remember sitting in a service at Lake Point with Pastor Steve.
Yeah.
And he talked about, caring for the widows and the orphans. And I remember this is before I had met Jess, like a couple of years before. And right then I was like, you know what? I think I want to adopt a child. And because I told you I loved being a
Yeah,
dad,
being a dad,
and
yeah.
I was financially in a position where I could do so. I did run through the idea of like, I wonder if that's odd. I wonder how many single men are like, let me go adopt a child.
Right.
But yeah, so I didn't get all the way through the process, but I decided in that moment, like I really wanted to do that. And then that like kind of 2 to 3 year period before I met Jess, I finally like started doing faith the way I wanted to do it and the way I felt like I was called to do it instead of checking the box of I went to my once a week church, you know?
If I could ask you this question, so like, church attendance is great, but it's just like anything else. You can go to the gym for the wrong reasons. You can go to church for the wrong reasons. What began to transition for you? The difference between simply going to church and knowing about God to like a relationship with Christ.
I think the biggest thing is I saw more and more Brandon develop as his own human. You know, because like when you have a kid, you can see a lot of yourself and your partner in that, and because they spend most of their time with you, and they can be like little clones of you and everything. But like when Brandon was in middle school, I really kind of reflected back to where I was at in middle school and making some poor decisions. And I remember like thinking how much I felt like, I was my own person and I was kind of abandoned by my dad. And like, I wasn't abandoning Brandon, like I said, he lived mostly with me, but I was like, well, if I had all those thoughts and opinions, then like, I still have time to like, do right by him and hopefully set him up on the faith path I would love for him to be on. I realize at some point you have to just let them go. But, and so I thought about it and I was like, well, why would he do that if I'm not doing that? Like I can't just go to church on Sunday and be like, see, we're the best. Go home, check the worksheet, because that's what I thought. I was like, we went to church. Like we're doing great.
How has it changed for you? Like the way you see your faith by shifting to like outside of just checking the box?
Yeah. So, like, for example, I hope this makes sense. I have, like, the Bible app on my phone. And instead of, I'll look at the verse of the day to check the box and get my streak to continue.
Sure.
I will screenshot maybe the verses that are most applicable to me in that season or in that moment, and then I'll always make sure to take the time. So every single day to, to really think about what's in front of me. Sometimes it's a shorter time, but also like if it's something that intrigues me that I want to have a conversation with, I have people to have those conversations with. And I think that's the biggest thing about like, I don't mind being alone is you do run into some situations where that is not quite beneficial. And so I definitely think I had a limited group of people that not necessarily would talk about faith with me, but that I wanted to talk about it with. And so I have a much wider circle now, and I'll, be like, hey, I was reading something out of Luke and it kind of struck me. And so like now I don't want to tell you that it's perfect every single day. I'm doing exactly the right thing because that would not be true. But instead of being a Sunday, it's Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like it's significantly different part of my life.
Yeah. So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things about you is what you do for a living. So, because I knew who you were before I knew you. So,
and I have a different take. We'll get to in a minute.
So, but here's why I'm asking. I want to know how your faith intersects with your work life.
Yeah.
Because, like, one of the things that I love about having you on the podcast is you're not in ministry. Like, a lot of church-based, faith-based podcasts are a bunch of pastors sitting around talking about how to live their life live faith in the workplace. And like, I sit in a room with full of believers every single day.
Right.
Yeah. So I would just
like what I've loved about even listening to you today is I think there's a whole bunch of people that be like, yep, that's what life was like for me.
Yeah.
And like that journey is so spot on. I mean, I've told you this before, but you're the person that I get people tell me the most, or like I relate to him the most.
Right.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So just to catch people up, would love for you to talk about what you do and then how these things connect. And I'm sure at some point feel like competing values.
Yes. So I host a radio show on 105.3 The Fan. It's called the KNC Masterpiece. We've tried really hard to keep that as a separate thing, but if you do want to listen 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on 105.3 The Fan, that would be great.
This is K.
Yeah, I am the K. Although we really like to throw people off. They'll be like, well, why does your name get to go first? And I was like, actually, my name is spelled Kevin with a C, and his is Corey with a K, just to mess with people.
Oh, I got you.
But,
love it.
So I think this is another step in my journey. We talked about mental health a lot, and I am a huge proponent of mental health conversations, especially for men. We do a lot of work with NAMI North Texas. If you find yourself in that spot, NAMINorthTexas.org, it is a great organization. And so the day my dad died, I went on air and talked about it. I didn't realize I needed that outlet until we were just in the middle of it. And, and so that kind of turned a corner for me to be more open, talking about my faith as well. I'll give you a real world example. In the last several days, obviously the murder of Charlie Kirk has popped up for a whole lot of people. And I know that's not necessarily strictly faith. It's politically involved and everything like that. But there was a huge religious component to that man or the things that he said. And so I felt a lot more comfortable talking about things like that. Because if we're going to talk about mental health, that's not about sports. So I feel a lot more comfortable just making references or allusions to faith as well. Although I will tell you, sometimes I'll call this the Crossroads podcast, but then other times to people I've definitely said I need to go do the Jesus podcast, and that is just how I shorthanded occasionally. And
I think it's so cool because when you were on there talking about the baseball camp to Germany,
Yes.
I remember you unpacking even some of that journey, obviously with us, but on your show, and you referenced it as the Jesus baseball camp several times.
Oh yeah.
But I love that because it just shows who you are and some of how you've grown. And I don't know, I've listened to you for a long time, and it's just been cool to just see that even over the last few months, you just become more open, more just transparent with your faith.
And to the credit of the guys that you work with, they're willing to engage in it
for
too.
sure. Yeah. And very much appreciate Corey and Alec and Reggie before him. Is you don't feel stifled. Now there's always people who are like, oh, take it outside, buddy, or stick to sports.
Yeah,
don't worry, LeBron. I got told that too. But you get to know the people who listen to your show. They know you as a person. They view you as part of their life. And what I always tell people is I went on air the night my dad died. I talked on air about our 2 miscarriages. I was like, you guys are part of my family. I don't just go around volunteering that information. And it felt welcome to, all right, well, this is another part. And if people don't care for that part of it, it now felt like it was worth the risk because I'm like, well, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, hopefully you'll stick around for a breakdown of the Giants game or, the Rangers, Astros, or whatever. But if you don't like it and it causes you to leave, I don't like that because I'm not trying to alienate people, but I'm like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to talk about.
In a very weird way, I feel like you just kind of gave an example of what it's like to follow Christ.
Yes.
So what I mean by that is you have a show where you go, people are tuning in initially for a very specific reason. Right? This is where I'm going to get my sports information. Tell me the scores, tell me the stats, tell me some vital information, trade data, that kind of stuff. And the Fan is a big radio station in the DFW area. They're number one, and there's really 2 predominant sports radio stations, and
you could say the ticket.
Well, what I'm saying is my point being they're the 2 big ones, but clear and far away. And you're going I know you're coming to me to just get this info, but you're wanting to get to know them and let them get to know you.
Yeah.
And so in this way of that's very much it's how your experience with church started out, where it's you started out with, I'm just coming to you to kind of get the information I need. check the box that I want to check, feel better about myself, whatever the reality for somebody is. But I don't really need to get to know you any deeper. But just like you were like, hey, you guys are my family, God's going like, y'all are my family. Like I don't want to just give you facts, historical data, verses and scriptures. I want to be known and I want to know you. Yeah. And so it's just kind of an interesting picture. Just it's the first thing that jumped in my mind when you said that. And we've told you, like, even in the 6 months or whatever we've been doing this podcast, like we've watched. I mean, I said this to you. I think it was when we were filming this. I don't think Wes was here, but I was like, we've talked about like watching the transformation in you and watching certain things change, and even watching you go to Germany and experiencing that, and hearing all of that through your lens, your eyes, was and has been such an encouragement to us. So I guess, and we got other questions, I'm sure, but here I'll ask you this question, and the answer can be like, Jason, it has had no impact, but I'm just going to ask this. How has, like, just this time, I know on one hand people think we're doing this as a podcast, but it's really kind of been a fun thing for the three of us to do. How has this had any impact, I guess, on you?
For sure. Like, because, so it's had a couple of impacts. First of all, there's been multiple messages that we have done that I'll ask you guys some questions, but then I'll like, you know what? I want to go read my own stuff. And that's why, if you've ever noticed, sometimes I come back with questions that are like, this was like a week ago, is because I kind of want to sort of read and learn some stuff on my own. But the other thing that I've learned a lot in the last several years is I'm doing this to fulfill me. Like, it helps with my wife, and I think it's made us closer on a lot of things, like going on the Germany trip, but I didn't do it for her. You know, like, I didn't say, let's go to Germany together to strengthen our relationship. I was like, I want to go to Germany because it feels like a thing I'm being called to do, and she felt the same way.
That's
and
awesome.
So it's good that not only, I feel like I'm not checking the boxes as much, I'm not doing what other people think my faith should look like, maybe, because I think that was the thing, is I got really caught up in I need to be faithful the way I'm being told I'm supposed to, and I didn't pay enough attention to like stuff like this. Like, this is very fulfilling to me.
Yeah, it's interesting, the picture you even gave of your wife. Like, I know this is visual for some, not for others, so it'd be hard to imagine, but if you can envision like a triangle, and if you as a husband and wife are at the bottom two corners of the triangle. A lot of times couples go like, how do we get closer together? Yeah. And their answer is to try to figure out how to close that gap along that bottom line of the triangle.
Yeah.
When the reality is, what I'm hearing you guys say is, as you guys have instead, you've climbed kind of that slanted line toward, like, if God's now at the top of the triangle, the closer you get to him, the closer you end up being to each other as you move up the triangle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is another reason we just fit as two humans, is she will engage in both serious and my more nonsensical thoughts about the Bible. Like when I asked you guys this off air, maybe it was on air, about power ranking the top 10 most important people in the Bible. And like, I really like that. Sorry, Wes, I'm really going to need you to report back to me. Outside of
one of these days,
Jesus,
God,
one. Yes. So she'll engage with me in like more fun stuff like that, as opposed to, you know, like, look, we had a lot of time to reflect during the miscarriages, and especially after the second one, I was mad at God. And I was like, all of these, and it just so happened, like, I know abortion is an ever-present debate in our society, but it just felt like in that moment it was the loudest thing in the world. And I'm like, there's all these people who are getting the opportunity to have babies, and they're like, I don't want them for whatever reason. And I was like, Lord, we desperately want a baby. Why are we not good enough? Why are we not chosen? And that pushed us down the avenue, because I'd found out that independently she also had thought about adopting. And so I remember, like, we filled out our paperwork. We picked an adoption agency. We got the packet. We filled out the paperwork, which, if you ever filled out an adoption paperwork, it is shocking the questions that are
and it's a lot.
Shocking the questions that are in there. And like, while all that was going on, she got pregnant, and it was like we didn't think that was possible. And so now what we've talked a lot about is maybe we want to foster kids.
Yeah.
And instead, where if that leads to adoption, great, but that is not the goal of fostering. And I just wasn't in a position before to foster. I was like, I can't take a kid in and just be like, hey, see you later.
Yeah.
But now I think we're both changed from that perspective as well.
If you had to kind of give us a picture of like, where do you think your faith life, your life with Christ is today?
It is like, I hope it's okay to say it like this. Like, I don't get paid to do this. I am here of my own accord. And because
I'm going to tell you, if anybody's listening from our church, no one is shocked at that.
Yeah, they're like,
Nobody's
oh,
surprised.
I've heard. But yeah, so like I'm here of my own accord, not only because I think it's fun, but so often is also educationally stimulating for me. And then like with our littlest Noah now, yesterday in the car when him and my wife picked me up from the airport, he's in the back seat singing the Bible.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the book for me. And he sings the walls of Jericho all wrong. But it's so funny too because he says it wrong in the nicest way. He's like the walls of he adds extra letters to it and stuff like that. And so it's just really funny. But like that's what he loves coming here to church, and we love bringing him to church, and I love being at the church. And it's not a box I have to check off anymore, except for maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. Then I'm like, oh, I really do want to sleep in or whatever the case is. But like, it's a choice for me, not a choice to check the box.
Yeah,
I think is the biggest thing.
That's really cool, man. We're incredibly proud of you, and I've loved getting to hear some more of your story. Like we
that one
truly,
part of the story.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I'm thrilled with the whole thing.
I'll tell you more details off air.
Okay. Well, for now, just because I know we've gone for a little while and it's been awesome to hear, I will do, since you got to do the interview, I'll do this. But for Kevin and Wes, we thank you for paying attention to the Crossroads podcast, and we will see you either next time or in a few seconds when it advances to the next episode.